So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to FMA Discussion, episode 247. And tonight kicks off the KI series. And our guests tonight are going to be GM Mark Wiley, Guro Brandon Ricketts. And I'm going to get into a little bit why I chose those two for the first one, which was actually extremely highlighted in the test run, if you saw that, why they were chosen. So kind of a subconscious decision, but it was certainly a good one based on what came out of the test run and all that. So these are going to be a compilation of series. My goal is to, one, bring more exposure to KI for those perhaps might not know or fully understand it and all that, get a better lens on it, and also to improve or attempt to improve unity and bringing the sanctions together in an attempt to work together to bring more attention to the art. So that's kind of my goals here for this series, and this is kicking off tonight, and it'll probably be going into deep into February and all that. We got a bunch of people that volunteered that wanted to do it from all the different sanctions. We got representation basically from everyone, if I'm correct, and all that. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up my guest. And here we go. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much. How are you guys, GM Wiley and Brandon?
Doing good. Thank you.
Hello, pretty good.
I want to thank you both for coming on and doing this. I really appreciate it. I'm excited. Again, I kind of stated my goals, and I'm hoping, my goals reflect well and people see sincerity that I'm trying to do with this and my good intentions and all that. And hopefully we bring light to this beautiful art, and hopefully in the end game, we bring some unity, as a side dish, hopefully, if that can occur. We can only attempt and try, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. You know what I mean? So what I want to just kick off is, you guys volunteering to do this, what do you hope to, let's start with you, GM, Mark. What do you hope to achieve from this, or are the outcome as far as bringing everybody together like this and hearing from the different sanctions and reps and all that?
I guess the main thing is there's too much divisiveness in martial arts, especially FMA. There's an old Chinese saying, you can't have two tigers in one cave. Well, the cave is now the world because of Facebook and YouTube, where it used to be a town or a barrio, right? You could have different teachers, but now everyone's vying for that attention. And it's ruined friendships, it's divided a family. We should all be using the same name, for example, right? But we don't. And, everybody can have their own expression, but we should still be cordial and know we're all part of that same family. There's older elders and midlines and youngers, and everyone's got to be nurtured to come up to support that family tree. So hopefully all the people you're bringing on to discuss, Dean, without you, these kinds of conversations don't happen.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And I like what you said. It kind of fits the goals that I'm trying to achieve here with this and all that, which I think soon we get deep into a few episodes, I think we'll see if that starts to reveal itself and all that. Yeah. So Guro Brandon, aka Young Scott, what say you on this? Like, what would you like to see happen, through all this? What would you like to see as far as positives come out of it?
To be honest, it's just a lot more of like everyone else within the FMA community can see that, there's still, there doesn't have to be that much politics from how I see it. It's just, whether we come from everyone comes from that same master, I guess you could say, but then the call kind of breaks down in terms of lineages, of course, learns from one people, learn from another person. But the thing is, it's, hopefully they see that, I'm young and stuff, so I'm always trying to connect with other masters up there, because my mindset isn't exactly more of just one person, that's it. It's a lot more of being able to connect with other people, just because we have the same values. We all want what's best also for the martial arts, whether it's Illustrisimo or other FMAs out there. It's more seeing that we can all connect as just one and not have to try to bring each other down. So I mean, even just meeting with other people, whether it's with GM Mark Wiley, even though I met him when I was like super young, but yeah, but really talk like for a long time and everything. But just me being open to just meeting with anyone in that matter, whether I've seen how he moves, I've seen how a lot of like other people move. It's just me being able to connect with other people and showing them that it's all about the support. That's really what it is, not bringing anyone down. Really.
Yeah. No, I think both of you well said. What is your back to GM? What would be the worst case scenario? That could come from this.
More division. I think if people are going to just use this as a vehicle to air dirty laundry, I think that will be a problem. I think the best route for me, if I was thinking if I was going to write a book on Illustrisimo today and gather up all the different lines, how would I want to present that information? And it would be just, when did you come in and what did you learn and what was focused on then, and not what you did after, right? So that we could see what everybody got at the top. And then the second generation, what did you learn? When did you come in? Who did you train with before you started changing things, And the changing isn't bad. I mean, everybody, just like when you cook, Brandon, right? Like somebody taught you how to be a chef and you have your own ways of doing things, right? It's still chicken parm is chicken parm, but everybody's got different breadcrumbs and recipes and everything else. So it's an art, right? But you have all the fundamentals, right? And the techniques for maneuvering. So Illustrissimo's art has a through line of that material. And if we could get to what did everybody get from that before they started making their own curriculums and changing, then we could get a really good look at what is Tatang's art versus what's our expressions of it, right? So I think that would be the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is everybody uses this as a vehicle to say, he doesn't know, he came in late, she doesn't know, I got the real thing, there's only X pillars, this is an offshoot, and that's just, it doesn't help at all. It doesn't solve anything.
Yeah, no, well said. How about same question to you, Guro, Brandon? I mean, what do you think? Like, what would be, obviously, what you would not want to see come out of this, or kind of worst case scenario?
I mean, worst case scenario, I feel would just be like people just disagreeing with everything. Because of course, well, one thing for sure is the fact that I'm like with me coming into the scene again. Because for a while, of course, I was just quiet, just like how my older brother and I were just quiet. But for the most part, a lot of the people in the FMA community usually knew who my older brother was and not me. So, oh, who's this guy? Like, what is he saying? Like, is he legit or things like that? I've come across a lot of people like that, but I still open them with welcome arms and things like that. But it's just, I mean, sure, fine. No, someone might try to say something, say I'm not legit or things like that. But for me, it's a lot more of, as long as they can see how I move, you can see in terms of my expression and things like that. I mean, I have videos to back it up too, just saying. But for the most part, it's, I just hope like no one really brings anyone down. That's really what it is. It's just more of just, like, it all comes from experience. Everyone has different experiences, things like that. Everyone comes from different lineages, different backgrounds and things like that. But the main thing is just a lot more of, there's always that line, that fundamental line where we're all still the same in that matter.
It's so, it's so funny when I reached out to you, because I thought you were still in San Diego. I had not realized that you had left, but and I remember distinctly saying this to you, like, yeah, I never heard about your brother. I always heard about you. Like I was like, and I don't know if that was just because far removed from the fact that he was over there and all that, but like what I started seeing, like, and I think I was first seeing your your videos on here, and so I just like, okay, well, he's the guy that's leading the, he's leading the sync, but I didn't even, so it was the opposite for me, far as like most people knowing your brother, it was actually you, as opposed to, but we got a bunch of folks already chiming in and tuning in. Folks, please let me know if you sent a question in. I'm definitely seeing the comments coming in. If you are watching, please tell us where you're watching from and smash that like button. We're just getting started with the intro, and we're going to be actually jumping right into the meat and potatoes now. So what what led you, for you, GM Mark, you, again, to me, I don't think you get enough credit. And I alluded this to you when I first interviewed you, and I just think what you've done for the community is extraordinary with your books. You far like anybody else brought people from the West to the Philippines to seek out the old masters, which unfortunately most of them have passed on, but I don't think you get enough credit in that regard. I mean, those guys, got popular, in my opinion, due to you. And if anybody else doesn't think that way, I think they're just deluded. But you being exposed to all these different systems, like what led you to seek this man out? I mean, what?
Well, I was fortunate to be in a time and place, and I have to give a lot of credit to Ray Galong, GM Ray Galong. Ray just lived in New Jersey, an hour from me, and I was in Philly, and I'd go up to see him all the time. So actually how we met was Roberto Torres, Bob Torres. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So Bob and Ray had a video company together, and they had made some films with Tatang and Yuli and Tony and Tupper were on there. And then he made some called Mandarigma Productions, and they had Mang Ben Lima. And I know we filmed Gocho and filmed Modern Onis with Rodel Dago, but they weren't released. So I had written a book for Kabbalah Serrata, so 1994 it came out. And they come on up and do a video. So I went up and met Bob. And met Ray, and I shot a video with a Serrata brother of mine. And then there were some misunderstandings between the owners of that company, and the video never came out that I shot on Serrata. But I saw so many videos. I never heard of Tatang before. And Ray kept telling me about Tatang and Tupper. There's always Tupper, Tatang, Tony, Alex Ko. And Alex Ko I knew because I seen an article of his in Inside Kung Fu in 1983, and then another one some years later. So I was familiar, but I didn't know anything about Bakbakan or Illustrisimo until I met Ray. Mm. And Ray was very generous with his content sharing with me, and we worked on Edgar's newsletter Vortex together and Ray's newsletter Sinog, and I did one called Tambuli, which is what decades later I named my company after. Right. And Ray and I worked on those newsletters together. I introduced Ray to the publishing company I worked for to help him with his books. And Ray accompanied me on my first trip over to meet Tatang and Tupper and Tony and all the guys. I mean, so I give my big shout out to GM Ray when you have him on, let him know.
Actually next Friday. Yeah.
Yep. So that's how I got it. I thought Angel Kabbalist for me was the man, fast and strong and tight, a little shorter than me, which is hard. I'm only 5'5", and I trained with Herminio Binas from Bacolod and Professor V and Remy Presas. It was all great stuff. And then Ray was telling me all these stories about Tatang, and then showed some video of Tatang, Tony, Tupper, and I was like, time to.
That's what happened to me.
Space and me, and I went, and I was convinced right away, and I was I don't know 23, 24. And I had enough sense about me that I wanted to master an art and not have to be a master of an art, that I could drop the ego about already being a master of Serrata, already being master of Binas and modern, and just say, okay, I'm fresh. Show me what to do. I want to learn this. I don't want to incorporate it. I want to learn it.
Right. Okay. Wow. And then, so Guru Brandon, obviously completely different scenario with you. I mean, you're born, raised in a house where basically weapons were just like kitchen utensils. So I mean, was there an option not to train? I mean, could you have like say?
Oh no. I had no choice. It was a lot more if I wanted to kind of, let's say, like go out, hang out with friends. I always had to do some kind of training first. But in terms of training, it was always Illustrisimo. When it came to different martial arts, like boxing, Muay Thai, and even like wrestling or jiu-jitsu, my dad was open to anything. But when it came to Filipino martial arts, it was always more of like Illustrisimo. But every now and then he would also mention Balintawak. Actually, it's something that that he would mention a lot. Where if you're learning like different like an FMA martial art and everything, he would always highly suggest Balintawak and everything. Actually,
you say why?
He would highly suggest me learning a Balintawak.
But yeah, I know. But do you say why?
Oh, it's he really enjoys like the fast movements that they do. The very,
you can't deny that.
Mm-hmm. But then like over time in terms of like with the system, he was always open to it, but I never got a chance to because I was too busy trying to learn like the Illustrisimo art, because I didn't start till I was at least big enough to hold on to the stick, because the stick was still bigger than me when I started. So I had to wait until I was not of age, but of the height required.
Poor Brandon, he had to wait till he was 3.5 to start learning.
But
poor guy, life is rough.
Just Illustrisimo at that point.
I'm just thinking, man, like we gotta wait. He's not even 3 feet tall yet. We can't do it.
Basically.
You can't. So I mean, so you're wow. And I know this probably might be difficult for you, Brandon, to answer because of not really have a compare and contrast. But even at a young age, were you able to see or realize how special this art was without really having anything to compare it to?
At first, I didn't really realize it, but then as I started getting older, and then I guess you could say when the technique started maturing up with me, and then getting exposed to different styles. Because at first, I didn't know what the different styles were. I always thought it was just FMA in general. Like I didn't know there was like an actual style for each one, kind of like saying Taekwondo in general, and there's like different ones too. But I mean, every single time I would see my dad like get different students and things like that. But for the most part, I always thought it was just the same thing, like back then, because they all threw their strikes the same way and things like that. But it wasn't until I started seeing my older brother like spar with the different students was when I started
like organizations.
Yeah, exactly. Because so a lot of the times when we moved to the U.S. was when I started seeing the differences. Was when students would come down, would try to do a private session with my dad. But then after we would try to test his art to see like, if it works for my style. So it was a lot more of like a challenge that came about. But then I would always see my older brother coming in for that. And I mean, for the most part, I thought it's like the same thing. But then when I started seeing how my brother approaches, how he just throws his strikes, and then realizing that, that's what I do too. So it's just those small details that started to get that was getting drawn to me.
Yeah,
I was seeing the differences when it came to with him not trying to clash in, always keeping that distance. And I would always wonder, why won't you just grab him and just start whacking him and beating him up? But it's always the main thing that, like, I remember my dad would get mad at me at that point. He's all like, you don't listen and things like that. It's because it's a blade art. You don't want to just exchange someone and just
crashing under a roof block.
Exactly. And so ever since that, that's when and then after seeing all those, that's when I started taking the training seriously. But then competing with, let's say in Cold Steel and different, local like FMA competitions, that's when I started seeing a lot more of the differences when it came to like how we play like the distance. I'm not saying this art is better than the others. Every art is good in their own way and everything. It's just a lot more from what I've seen when it came to Illustrisimo, is that there's really more of like that long range game from how I see it, where it's a lot more like picking the shots instead of just not so much like an exchange all the time. An exchange, sure, fine, but the mindset is always it's blade, it's not stick. And that's what helped me after when it came to like even like with meeting different styles, because I always learn a thing or two, especially once I get hit with what this one sound, like, okay, I know what I did wrong there, so I always have to adjust. And then, I mean, it's just really what it is, yeah.
Yeah, I know, because I was, I was having a Holland when I was coming up with this outline. And I was trying to, because I always like to give the same question to guests so they both have an opportunity to, contribute and all that. And I'm thinking like, geez, he grew up with this. He didn't have a choice. How am I gonna integrate him in this question? And so I just figured, well, I'm just gonna do it, and we'll just get creative. And so,
I'd like to make 2 comments if I could, based on
please do. Oh yeah.
Tell some stories about Brandon's dad. One is he always liked to fight in the Philippines. Every time I see him, he's like, "Come on, we go sparring. Like, find some guys." So we'd be at the park training in the morning, and then another group's over there training, another group's over this side training. And then Tupper see him bickering, and then I see him sit on the wall and go. And he's like,
right there. Exactly.
Something's gonna happen, and he start walk over and slap some guy. Then guy comes over and Tupper's like, "Come on, let's spar." And oh my God! One time there was another well-known master there, and he was showing all his stuff. And Tupper's like, "Let's fight. We'll have some fighting now." And the guy swing Tupper just snatched the stick right out of his hand, and it's like threw his stick away. He's like, "You can't even hold your stick. Get out of here!" Always. But I remember one day we were at the park training with Tatang, and everyone's there, and this guy was mouthing off, and I said, "Toops, what are we gonna do?" "I don't feel like fighting today." That was it. He was just tired. He didn't want to fight, but every other time, any chance he got, and he trained everything. He trained kung fu, he trained boxing, kickboxing. He was always have his guys sparring, hitting the heavy bag and the double end bag for timing, all kinds of stuff. That's all, that's why he was so good. Because he's smart.
What's funny? Burton told me a story, and so when I started training with Burton, he told me a story. Yeah, so when I got there, GM Ricketts and Tony, they picked me up at the airport, and I'm exhausted, jet lag, and I'm thinking they're going to bring me to the hotel or wherever you're staying, and I'm going to go to sleep and catch up, and tomorrow we're going to start fresh, and so they bring him, of course, to the gym, this rat where you described. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm exhausted, and they just start going like, he just said Tony, Brand's father just started like going after him, and Brand just like, I'm so tired.
Oh man!
But he said he had the nastiest sidekick. Mm-hmm. He said his sidekick was nasty. The power he said he could generate. He said, I remember, like Burton doesn't, when he says something, it really resonates. And when he said, yeah, he had the nasty side. So Brandon, good thing you're not emulating your father going around the Manila streets and.
Oh no, it's a different time now.
That'd be really good for the restaurant business, huh?
Yeah.
We got some questions here. I just want to see where they're going to fit in. All right. Oh my God. Let me see here. I tell you what, GM Mark, could you, while I'm scrolling questions, we got a question here. What would you say the main differences, similarities between Serrata and Illustrissimo?
Well, there are some similarities because Angel Caballos learned from Felicissimo Tizon, who was a co-worker with Illustrisimo on the Tondo piers, shipping piers. So they would train together, and they carried like billy clubs or nightsticks, and on the pier. So that's why the Serrata sticks are 24 inches, short.
Okay.
Because that's what Dizon trained Angel with, because that's what he was using on the docks. So when Angel started training with Dizon, that's what they had. And that's why the Serrata system's so compact, because he didn't spend time learning all this stuff. This is what we use on the piers: block, counter, strike, and a lot of the moves are in the mid-range, people think Serrata is close range. It's not. It's just a shorter stick, but it's still measured at medium range if you do it properly by the FMA range measures. Although most of the guys don't agree, that's okay. So Tatang's techniques in the medium range are very similar to Serrata, but Serratas are stick-based, even though everybody in FMA now says everything's blade. Well, it's really not. So,
yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah, this is blade orientation, and halfway through the technique, they're grabbing the stick, or they're doing some stupid stuff, blade on blade blocking. It's but anyway, that's all FMAers. I'm not picking on Serrata. I love Serrata, guys. But yeah, so Dizon learns from Illustrisimo also, and there's a lot of Serrata stuff, this over and underarm stuff that Illustrisimo does more flowing with the sword. Serrata is more stick, so it's impact weapon, impact strike, impact hitting. The Illustrisimo is more, the Australia is more gliding, with the flat hand so you don't get cut. Serrata is more of a block, because it's taught as an impact weapon art. And Serrata is really a single range art. Illustrisimo is really a 3-range art. People can disagree, but I'm sticking to it.
I don't see how they end. I mean, you were before both of these great men, so if anybody knows, it's going to be you. I mean, you were with them; they were both still alive. So I don't see.
For me, Angel Caballos was a master of holding his range, right, and just hold your ground. And he had this male triangle stepping, right. There was his replacement stepping, and Illustrisimo doesn't use that stepping. He uses the female and the Tatsulok and Tatlungbao, or 3 shell, right, and Lutang and Alis. Yeah, different steps, but Serrata doesn't have all those steps because it was the way Angel taught it, because he learned it from Dizon under a specific condition, which was this is what you're going to learn to work on these docks, and he was there 5 years to learn it, working with Dizon, and that's what he got, and it's powerful and it's great at that thing,
within that element. Okay.
Within that element. But Illustrisimo style is broader and is 100% sword based. That it's and I always tell my students, you can always level down. Like if you learn a sword art, you can do all the stick techniques with it, right? But if you learn a stick art, it's real hard to level up to using the sword because your hands are all in the wrong positions, your range is wrong. Like all this stuff is goofy.
That's a way to put it. Oh, okay.
I like people are striking. If you just hold your stick and swing, you can hit from all the sides 360. But the sword's really like, if it's double edged or single, it's like one side, and you don't want to be hitting with the flat all the time. No.
Wow. No, that was jeez. No, that was excellent. So next thing I have is in this, and just here, I'm gonna ask you. Then we'll piggyback back to GM. So Brandon, did your father ever? And this is gonna tie in actually with Chad's question. The question I have here, Guru Brandon, did your father ever share hey, this is what makes KI different from the other systems? Did he ever show you we do this, but watch some of these other systems, they do this. This is how you encounter them. Do you ever give you that as far as the differences and all that?
Actually, the only difference from what I remember, from what he would actually tell me about the different systems, is just more of the mindset, meaning because again, bladed art versus stick art, there's a different approach to it from how you discipline yourself in terms of your mind, how, for example, when it comes to sparring, when it comes to drilling and things like that. But for the most part, he never really went on to say this is, I mean, sometimes, of course, sometimes he would, but for the most part, he wouldn't really talk about the art as to this is why this is better than the other. It was mostly more on the practitioner, if you know what I mean. So it's more of let's say you have, let's say let's say for example, Illustrisimo, but just saying out of random, let's say for example, some might say one is better than the other, but then it really comes down to the practitioner. It's just really what it is. Because my dad never really wanted me to get used to the fact that this style is always better for the most part. Because even though, let's say, a style is whack, but then the practitioner is like really conditioned, really good, you'll still get beat up just because he's conditioned. So a lot of it really comes from the
That's a good point, right? If he's got a good gas tank.
Exactly. So
He
even
can
though your
suck.
techniques
I
are
mean,
good,
he's gonna
you
be
can go
there.
on for like 30 minutes straight, and then they're gone,
You know what I mean?
But for the most part, he really made a point that, it's not always about the style. It really comes from practitioner. Sure, like the style helps you like learn like what you need to do, but for the most part, it really comes from that person.
Yeah. No, that's hard to argue. I mean, yeah. I mean, you make it what it, yeah. So here's my question, GM, and this is going to kind of, so Chad Bailey is just kind of the opposite reflection of my question. So my question is, and we'll tie the two together here. My question is, what were the distinct differences from the other FMA styles that you experienced from Illustrisimo? I know you touched on Cabas a little, and the flip side of this question is, if you want to put like part two, Chad is asking, what are the universal similarities or concepts and all that?
Okay, well, I'll start from the universal because that's I have my own idea of that. Let's say that if someone's way up in the universe and looks down and can just see FMA, right? And let's pretend they can see the whole map of FMA, and there's exactly 100 defenses. I don't know. Let's pick a number, right? Mm-hmm. So there's 20 different kinds of footwork, 100 kinds of defenses, and 10 disarms. I don't know, whatever. Or, each style is picking from that because those are the endemic movements that make FMA, right?
Okay.
So, for example, there are some styles like Balintawak that are and Serrata that are small, right? So they have single stick, or they have, stick and knife, but no double sticks. You know what I'm saying? No long range. It's just medium close range, right? They have, maybe 10 blocks, with their counters, right? I mean, tight infighting systems, right? Then you have systems like Tapato, which is just long stick, right? Basic strikes, but, no spadi daga, right? So you start to see like, okay, Illustrisimo had dos manos solo baston, right? Tapados for a different term. Double stick, single stick, espadi daga, right? Single knife. Not so much empty hand, which is why, Tupper and everybody went to learn boxing, kickboxing, gocho, right? Different styles. Modern arnis had, single stick, double stick, I say stick and dagger, but not sword and dagger. When Remy demonstrated the sword, he was actually just swinging it like a stick. There was no nuance there. He used to annoy me. His only one of his few, I thought he was awesome. He was really good, ambidextrous, strong, and he was a fighter. But he didn't really know the sword. He demonstrated on his videos and saw the blades springing, flashing.
Oh, okay.
Banging blade against blade. But so the similarities is they're all pulling from the same kind of pull, right? And now with YouTube, everybody's pulling from MMA and jiu-jitsu and Silat, and it's just
now
it's not that
is everything under the umbrella.
It's not. So the differences, I think, are in the amount of time. There are a lot of masters and teachers in the Philippines that people haven't heard of, who never ran a club, right? Who didn't join the association, who never fought in the Narafil tournaments or the Arnis Philippines or whichever group, right? They're just practitioners. They're especially out in the provinces. And their styles tend to be narrower, like less material, but very specialized, right? Into like Largomano only or Medio only, And then the styles where they had students in schools, even an outdoor club like Tatang, the styles seem to grow and pull in more techniques, over generations, right? But all that stuff can be found amongst the whole of FMA. If you look, if you can see it, it's just some specialized, right? But for me, the real differences comes in not which techniques you use, right? Is there a strategy behind what you're doing? Mostly the answer is no. And this gets into a big problem with what we see today. I think you had mentioned something on the phone earlier before we started, Dean, about it, but I'll wait till you get to the question. But the point is that if you're only learning how to block and counter against the 12 strikes and do some feeding drills, right? And then sparring with the helmets and the big pads and just swinging on each other for 2 minutes, you're not really, you don't have a grasp of the art as a fighting art, right? Mm-hmm. You're just blocking and countering.
Yeah, I know exactly what
you've lost the spirit of the FMA, right? And therefore you're not learning the strategies. And Illustrisimo's, the way he taught, and especially Tony and Tupper and Ray Galong, you know, they and Romy, you know, all those first generation guys all taught that theory, you know, and put it into their curriculums. That strategy. You have to have a hit without being hit, kill without being killed, right? Yeah, and then I always say on top of that is don't lose the plot. You know, you're not here to mess around and block and counter. You're here to not kill the guy or knock him out if he's attacking you, right? I mean, take him out, and that's it. Like all the play and all the play demos is ridiculous for me.
You know, I know exactly what you're talking about before we went on live. It was the, which I'm going to get to, the feeding. Yeah. And its relation to complacency. Just I want to make sure I'm just not missing any questions. All right. What all right, I'm going to get to that, James. Okay. All right. So now Guru Brandon, and again, you know, I know when you got older, you know, I know you in conversations you mentioned like you kind of played around some, you know, Dos Paris guys sparring around and all that. What were you able to extract? I mean, far as what GM was just mentioning, like far as tactics and strategy. I mean, like, were you seeing the difference what you could impose far as that style, for example?
Well, when I was when I met up with the Dos Paris group, and it was in the San Diego group over there. It was more of like a cross training where we were able to meet up, like spar around, things like that, which I actually liked because back in the day I would try to find different gyms and try to cross train with them, but then some of them took it the wrong way. They thought it was a challenge, so I kind of stopped from that. But then with them, there was actually good because they were okay with it, which is nice. And so, I mean, with sparring with those styles where I was able to kind of see how it was where if someone tries to come in close at you, when it was a different kind of rule setting. Because for me, I was always so used to always like staying out, where in this particular setting, it was more like, you know, sometimes they would try to close in, and a lot of like basically a lot of like the inside game, things like that. Curves. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And which is interesting because when it became to the close range game, where of course we're using stick, even though my mindset was still blade, a lot of the different techniques started coming out. Meaning, for example, let's say my the bob and weave in boxing started coming out, which I didn't realize that it could actually work in terms of in an FMA setting, just because of like, you know, boxing, sure, if it's punches, but then if you think about it, if it's like a blade coming at you, you know, it's a whole different story. But since it's stick, I guess the mindset was different. So I was like, oh, okay, it's fine. You know, a stick, I can try to dodge it. But I mean, I just want to be clear that if it's, let's say, padded blades, I just want to be clear on that. Padded blades, just keeping that mindset there. I will not try to use my bob and weave because it's not something I'm like playing around with. But for the most part, when it came to the Dos Paris and everything, when I met up with it, it was nice to see where I was able to try to experiment as to what techniques would work for me and what did it. Mm-hmm. Let's say, for example, even just say basic roof block, for example. You have this roof block right here, and then you also have the reverse side, right? Mm-hmm. For the most part, that's when I noticed that for me being shorter, I was sparring guys that were somewhat same height as me, and some were a little bit taller, that this roof block was working better for me. For my other students who also spar with them, the reverse Sumber block was working a lot better for them, which was interesting because I tried to do it. It was not working. So it was during that time when I started seeing that even though how much I practice some techniques, some of them really don't work. just because of like the whole body type thing. So I was like, okay, so at least now I can see that when it comes to different like styles and height, it really makes a difference. So when I met up with not just the Doce Paris group, I also met with the there was also a group called the Cannibals in San Diego as well. Really nice. Yeah, Cannibals actually. I think some of them came from like Dog Brothers. I don't remember, but we're really nice guys actually. Really welcome because they let us just cross chain with them, and that's why I noticed how, because the way they played their game was also similar to Illustrisimo, where it was like the long range, not trying to close in, but long range, but then they would rush in and then back to long range. So it was nice to see more like that switch, but then now seeing as to what technique would work and what didn't. And so now being able to pick up that, okay, so there are other guys that would try to rush in at you. So how do I try to deal with that situation kind of thing? So each style I was able to pick up something where, okay, how can I try to improve my Illustrisimo game when it came to this kind of stuff and that kind of stuff? Because the main difference is I'm not Tatang. It's not like I'm tall. It's not like I have long arms. So I have to make sure I'm able to adjust my style to fighting different styles just because of the whole height advantage thing.
Wow, no. Yeah. Matter of fact, Jeff just mentioned that he's thinking you might be referring to Mike, who was a former Dog Brother.
I think that was him. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
The Cannibals were really nice guys. And those.
That sounds about right. So, all right. What GM Mark, in your opinion, what are the most important factors of KI? From your time with him, the pillars. So what do you think is the most important factors of KI? And what do you try to instill in your students as far as the importance of what you think they are?
The most important thing is the control of range and time, right? So it's like time and space, right? The space that you occupy is the range, right? And the timing, right? And those are the two most important things. And I think that's the emphasis on that is what really separates KI from other styles.
Controlling range. Okay.
Controlling range and time.
Okay.
Right? Range and time. And meaning timing, right? When do you enter? When do you not enter? When do you counter? Tatang, I think I told the story last time. He was showing me the pluma against angle one and had me do it like 800 times because I kept doing it wrong, but I was mimicking him the whole time. And but the way I was delivering my, every time I fed him, he did pluma differently, and it was driving me bonkers. So I say, here's angle one, and I have somebody videoing, and he does pluma. And then I say, okay, I'll practice it now. And he's watching me, and then I see him just kind of looking away, bored. And I say, Tang, what's the matter? And he's like, you don't do what I show you. I'm like, what the hell are you talking? Show me again. So I give him angle one again, and he does it different. Now I know I got jet lag, and it's hot at 6 a.m, and you haven't eaten yet. But I know what I saw, So I do it again. Like I'm watching him as I'm giving him the one. I'm watching what he's doing under here. I'm like, I got you. I got it. So he sits down, and my friend feeds me, and I'm doing it again, and he's just looking at the ground, shaking his head. This went on forever, and I finally said, "You keep changing the technique." I said, "You keep changing the technique," and he said, "No, you keep striking different." And big aha moment for me. And I said, what do you mean? I said, I'm giving you angle one. He said, but it's different every time. The first time you reached at me because you were further away. The next time you cut it on an angle tighter. The next time you did it like this and you were looking, so your one went out and came back, right? Because the gesture changed, so I had to adjust. But pluma is just this part. How I enter and exit is different depending on how you're striking. He said the first time you were just standing parallel, and you're like, here, Tang, and the next time your right leg was forward, so your body angle's different. So this is how he controlled that space. So pluma, estrella, tumbada, fraile, all these are concepts, right? And how you maneuver in the time and the space is the application of the concept. So sometimes he used this footwork, sometimes that to do the pluma because he had to adjust to my angle and my range, even though it's still angle. He was very, very, very acute on that. You know, very, very acute. So for me, that was the biggest thing I learned from him. I mean, he couldn't talk about it like this, you know. He would just do it again. You're standing wrong. You didn't strike me. You struck me this way. You struck me that way. And I had to figure it out. And then I watched the videos again and again and again. I'm like, now I see, you know. And that for me was, and don't be afraid to walk into the blade. Stop zoning away. I'm like, no, you're supposed to angle. No, walk in. You know, don't be afraid. Trust the technique. And that's a big thing, that training method. So for me, KI is about timing, is about having some balls and trust the technique with your timing and your positioning, right? And look at each thing as a concept that's applied in different ways. It's not just right leg forward, we do pluma against one, against whatever. It's all different. It's all different. Most styles don't teach like that. The teachers don't teach like that. You're right. And Tatang didn't really teach. He would just show, you know, and then you had to ask a question, and he wasn't thinking that way. He didn't care. You know, he wasn't like, I'm the great master and you're going to learn my curriculum. He was just like, oh, you want to play with me? Okay. You know,
it's just fascinating. Just like that, everything you just said, you know, and something you just touched upon, which I think is so critical. And I hold myself accountable to this, like not picking up on like how the angle ones could be just totally different, using that as an example, of course,
right.
Number 5, but like you were saying, like if, you know, depending on what legs forward, did you reach with your shoulder? Were you just more from a standstill?
Right.
Reactions and that's just
because you know when you're feeding, sometimes you're just standing there like you're standing, and you just like angle 1, angle 2, right? And next time you're here, but you step forward, angle 1, and then now you're right lead. Another time maybe your left foot's forward, or you lean, or you know, it's all different. That's why that's okay. He got scared. My hunting threw him off. You see, no one can hang. No one can hang.
You're Yoda, see?
Yeah, but it's the ability to control those things, which is why range measure is so important in There you go. Range measure is so important in FMA, so that when someone is giving you that one, it's not always you do the block the same way, whichever blocks are going to be. It depends on Tony drilled me on this. Tupper knew it automatically because of all his boxing. He knew when someone was in range to hit him, or when he was in range to hit the guy, just from sparring so much. Like it was inbred. It was in Tupper, right? Tony knew it from a technician's perspective, where every time we're in close range, your left hand shouldn't be able to touch your chest. Right.
Right. Okay.
And as soon as it touches your chest, you've moved into the edge of close range, which means his dagger can kill you. He can grab your neck, hit you with the puño. And he drilled me and drilled me and drilled me until I was never able to be touched with the left hand, doing techniques in that were meant for medium range.
From a technical standpoint.
Tupper just had it inbred from sparring so much and fighting so much. He just knew.
How interesting, just to like the two, how they would deliver based on their experience, you know?
And now I train that so much for my students that I just have it. I can see it. No matter how tall you are compared to me, I know what our range is based on looking at the length of our limbs, right? And the weapon. I know what range I'm in, and my range is different from your range. So if you're taller with longer arms and a bigger stick, maybe you're in close range to me, but it's long range for my technique. And we're hardly ever in the same range at the same time unless you're equal height and equal weapon. Right. So you have to be aware, what techniques can he hit me in his range while I need to defend and I'm in my own range. So you have to have a 2-part perspective. And I got that idea from Tatang.
Wow, that's just amazing. You know, like it's almost like now, like just to intentfully like change up your feeds within the same angle. You know, that's just Wow. Same thing for Guro Brandon. You know, like same thing for you. Like, you know, what do you find the most, fundamentally speaking, the most important factors what you believe in, and secondly, what you try to instill and your students such as me. So,
It's actually pretty much the same with how what a GM said, but of course not in so much in that technical standpoint from my understanding. But it was actually very similar where it comes to range, timing, and a lot of it really comes from like there's that commitment or having the balls to do it. You know,
Right.
it's really that because if you don't believe in the technique, it's not going to work. Sure, let's say drills, you're just doing it, but when it comes to like full contact and everything, I mean, if you're not committed, you don't believe in that, in the certain strike or a certain block, you're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, you're gonna be hesitant, and then because you were hesitant, you're gonna get freaking cracked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, because even nowadays, even with my students, sometimes, I mean, there's always that habit where they would try to close their eyes when the impact is about to go, or let's say, for example, when they're blocking, they tend to close their eyes and things like that. I mean, it happens, you know, but it's a lot more really just forcing them to do it. Like, for example, I had a student before who my older brother was still with me at that time. It was just me and him teaching, and so my older brother has a different way of teaching, and he's very kind of like it's more of he just wants you to get it right away. And so with him always closing his eyes, my brother made him wear a headgear. It's like, you always close your eyes here. Wear that headgear. Keep your eyes open. I'm going to keep smacking you in the head until you learn how to just keep your eyes open. And then I'll do it with the block. But then afterwards, you know, he got better at it. And then it's just really more of getting that confidence. You got to build up that confidence to do it.
Yeah.
Wow. In your comfort zone of just doing things just like that, but not getting out of it. I mean, how do you know if it actually works or not? That was the same for me when it came to me always testing out the different techniques and everything. Because there was a time that, you know, I was questioning some blocks because I was wondering if it actually works or not. I mean, I was curious, you know, as I was getting older, it's like, does it really work? Does it not work? But then that's when, just like what I said before, where I started realizing how it really also depends on the practitioner and how they get it. But then at the same time, the timing, because it also comes from experience. Because there were some techniques that my brother could pull off that I couldn't, and there were some that I can pull off that he couldn't. It just really depends on how committed you are, how much you also practice the technique, and also how you believe in that technique. If you believe you can block it, you can do it. You know?
Yeah. You know what? Also, though, I think it's also like, and I'm only speaking, you know, from my experience on that. But I also think, you know, do you like it? Like, do you really like that technique? Because if you really like that technique, you're gonna fine tune it. I mean, like if it really is appealing to you, and you know, you're gonna put the effort forward to make it work because you know it just resonates with you and all that. I mean, of course, without forcing it and all that. But Steve Brody wanted to say hello to you, GM, and all that. Bingo.
Hey, Steve.
Who's Largo or Media? Steve Brody. So. Okay, let's just, GM, what makes your, and I know you quoted in a test run, like 85% of your system is KI, but if you were to look at just in a lens of pure KI, what makes your sanction different from the others as far as KI, as far as what you stress and all that?
Well, mine's super cool. I'm as we're doing this, I just found an old picture of Brandon and his dad that I want to share. How can I share that or send it to you while we're on?
You know what you could do while you're talking and answering? If you send it to me via Messenger, I should be able to pull it off. Yeah.
Under FMA discussion messenger or under your name? I'll go to Dean Franco Messenger.
Yeah. Send it there.
Okay. All right. And anyway, I hope it's Brandon. I wish I have a bigger shot, but I just found this thumbnail. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, but I have a big one. Anyway, it's a cute pic. And now I forgot the question.
No, that's okay. I got it here. So, what the question is, it'll be for both of you, by the way.
Yeah.
So, what if any, like, as far as, and look, again, I know your system, it's 85% KI and the other stuff, but if you were just to like look at KI and just teach it to your students, what makes your sanction different from the others as far as what you stress and how you go about it, methodology, and etc.?
Okay, easy. So the way I teach, the non-KI material comes actually after the fundamentals anyway. So the whole fundamental core of integrated Escrima is KI.
Okay.
Right. So I always teach, I put a very big emphasis on footwork and not just lip service, but all the footwork has a term and has a range. And it either moves you vertically between ranges or horizontally between gates, right? Gates meaning the arms, right? Inside out, or outside. Okay. So it's moving you front and back and sideways, right? And a footwork is either keeping you in a range, moving you between ranges, or keeping you in a range but changing the gait, or changing the gait and the range. So when you understand that you've trained it enough, that you understand the utility of each footwork, right? That's necessary. The next thing is the 13 striking methods, right? And different from the 12 strikes. These are methods of striking: dos andanas, doblete, baksak-salok, all these combos and singular motions combined. So we have 2 strike combinations, and all those 2 strike combinations are built of the individual 12 strikes, right? But the 2 strike combinations are named, like for a concept, like say dos andanas, right? 2 strikes on one line in opposite directions, right? So you go up and down. So it's baksak-salok or it's rompida, right? I mean, you see, it's still, and it also happens to be medio fraile recta. It's still dos andanas. So they can be used as strikes, as blocks, as counters, but it's a 2 strike concept, right? Okay. And there's a whole bunch of those, right? And then we take those 2 strike concepts and we merge them with the footwork, right? And then we learn the techniques, starting with what I call mode 1, or long range, hitting without blocking, checking, or parrying, right? Hitting on the first beat, right? And then the second mode is hitting on the first beat, but the left hand is checking, parry, pressing. You're using a support hand, right? The third is deflecting, right? Major fraile, florete, things like that, right? And then the fourth one is all the two blocks, double block stuff: Estrella, Tumbada, Boca de Lobo, etc., etc. Just the longest timing and the least things you want to do, because you have 2 hands tied up on one, which means somewhere you're open, high or low. It's going to take you at least 2 beats to counter, right? And 2 things are caught up, right? Where as you go closer in the other direction, you're faster. And Tatang almost never, when he was free flow moving, doing those blocks anyway. And then all of our techniques that we teach for KI are taught. Footwork is the first part, name of the technique, and then the technique. So we'll say like lutang recta. So you're doing lutang and recta as a mode 1, right? Or we'll say alis Australia. So you're moving sideways to do your Australia, or something like that. So the footwork is always first, because I got from Tatang the idea that controlling that range and space is the most important. And then the counter technique is named second in how I identify them, because what are you going to do with that footwork? And I put those names together so the students don't do them wrong later, by like do the wrong footwork with the recta, and then you're in the wrong range or gate and you can get countered. So we only ever teach it in the correct way that is safe and effective, that's not left to chance, but it's left to skill and belief in the movement. So
wow.
For me, that's it.
No, that was all. Thank you. So same question for you, Guru, Brandon. Like, your sanction, like, what makes your sanction different from others, generally speaking? And what do you really try to stress within your sanction?
Actually, when it comes to my sanction, I guess you could say, it's just a lot more of, I still pay respects to how it was taught from before, like how my dad taught it to me. But then it's a lot more of, techniques are always evolving, techniques are always growing. So it's a lot more, I would show them how it was done before, just to pay respects. But then at the same time, I would show it from how my perspective is, as to how I made it effective, at least for myself. Because it really comes from experience right there, where sparring is always a must. That's one. But my dad would always mention where every time you're feeding, whenever you're doing footwork, blocking, or things like that, you always need to have that intention. So I say, for example, you're just training by yourself, especially now with the pandemic and everything, it's a lot more, instead of just blocking like this, like what are you actually blocking? Like, are you just doing for the sake of just emotion, or are you actually thinking that there's a strike coming in and then you're actually going for that block? So there's always having that intention to it. When you have a partner, when you're striking, let's say you're just feeding or flowing. Are you just hitting him from all the way out here? Or are you actually trying to get it as close enough as possible to actually hitting him? Because it always reflects when sparring. So that was the one thing my dad would always say. Whatever you do in training reflects in sparring. If you're not doing the techniques right, there's no intention behind it, then it always reflects in sparring. Because my dad was really big on that. As to, besides, drills are there to help you kind of, just to get that motion, like second nature motion coming in. But it really comes from also that instinct as to that survival instinct that you have when you get into, that ring with someone. That's just really what it is. As for, I'd say with my students and everything, one thing for sure, I always try to remind them that, you can imitate all the techniques what you want, but let's face it, you're never going to be taught that. You didn't experience what he experienced. So you got to make sure that whatever techniques I'm teaching, you also have to make it adjust, that it works for you. Because everyone has different, like in cooking, everyone has different flavors of how they add their little spices, I have my own way of spices where coming in from a dance background, I tend to kind of move my hips a lot more, compared to others. But then at the same time, it's just a lot more of, let's say, for example, how I'm approaching certain techniques. I would always go about it from different levels. For example, let's say, if you're just starting, then get used to, of course, footwork is always the main thing. You want to get used to getting out of there. If you don't hit the guy, it's okay, as long as you're out there. It's fine. At least hit the stick. Sure. Get used to the impact first, so you don't get scared from it. And then afterwards, as you move out, then you start going in with those recta moves when you start hitting the hand as you're moving out. And the third one is always, once you build up that confidence, instead of moving out first, now you can hit before moving out because you've already built it up. So it's a lot more of kind of, there's that progression where, level 1, level 2, level 3 kind of thing, or beginner, intermediate, advanced. But again, with all those practices, sparring is always emphasized. That's just, there's no way around it. If you want to get better at it, sparring. Not just sparring with the same person all the time, but every chance you get, sparring with different people. It's not you're trying to call them out or try to say that your style is better, but it's really more of your own, just for your own personal growth. Right?
Yeah, how do you find out what's going to work for you?
Exactly. It's really what it is.
How you going to find out what you like? How you going to find out what resonates at the time of stress, inoculation, what you're pulling off, and trying to get in a calm state, and what's working for you if you don't put yourself in that element. I don't know. Somebody else has an answer. I'm all ears, but GM, that picture came through. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up, GM, while you can answer.
I'm curious with the picture.
Yeah. No, actually, I just saw it.
Super cute. I just realized that it hadn't sent. I had attached it and didn't hit send, and I was like, I wonder if you saw the picture, and I checked back, and I just sent it.
Yeah, because I was checking. I'm thinking maybe, but here's the. All right, so
all right.
In your opinion, GM, you in concert with all these guys and hearing their stories about him, and you actually talking to him, and this, that. What? Obviously, he was special, but what? How do you get special? Was it his tenure in Mindanao? Was that Sultan, whoever he trained with, just had something unknown to mankind? What do you attribute to his perception to reaction, his ability just to find gaps in such an acute manner? What do you attribute it to?
I think there's something innate in people that is special for different things. Child prodigies in music, whatever, dancing, whatever it is. And I know a lot of really tough guys who never took martial arts who can beat my ass. They're just street fighters, bar fighters, they fight for money. They're just tough guys, And I think there was just something in Tatang that made him not afraid to fight, number one. Not afraid to be 13 and get on a boat and think you're going to America. There's no fear there. Who does that?
That's a good point.
That, not afraid to train in sword at a young age. uh, he was almost fearless, and he didn't give a crap about the martial art community, the martial art culture, none of that FMA. It didn't matter to him. I'm this guy. I have this art. Who are these people who want to train with me? I'm not a teacher. What do you mean learn from me? This is what keeps me alive. You know, this is my thing. You're not going to take it from me. And it took a while for them to convince him, you know, and then he relaxed and he spar with them with the padded sticks and with the regular sticks and demonstrate and take pictures. But it took years of them, you know, Tony and Tupper and Yuli badgering Tatang for that, you know. And I think there's just something in there. He's not afraid to walk into the blade. He'll fight. He doesn't care. You know, he believed in his oracion and anting. He had them tattooed. You know, he gave me some oracions he wrote out for me one day. And I think you either have that or you don't have it. And no matter how good your technical training is, you know, a lot of people, really good technical martial artists, and they can't fight, or they get scared and they freeze if it's a real encounter. And as soon as you're afraid, your timing's off, you lose, you know, or you do a technique halfway, like, okay, I'm going to grab his wrist or I'm going to strike. And you're like, huh? Like you get that little, and that's the end. And he just said, don't be afraid, trust the technique, like rely on the technique and just do it. And I think that's what made him really so feared, and had that ability for that timing, because he wasn't afraid to just walk into a live blade, you know. I mean, not into it, but toward it, you know.
No, right, exactly.
Yeah, and I just think it was something in him, you know. And then he just developed his method of arnis from him. So by the time Tony and Yuli and Tupper got to him with the video cameras and the training, they could catalog out what he was doing and make sense of it. But he didn't have that. He didn't talk about that. You know, Tatang didn't talk about that. He never thought of it that way. It's just something he does.
You know what? It's just amazing, and we're gonna get Guru Brandon's opinion on this. You know, and you probably know better as far as the particular or the exact ages, but I think if I remember correctly, 1975, I think, is when GM Tony finally met him or got him to teach, or what have you, or somewhere around there. And I think he was already in his, if I'm not mistaken, in his mid 70s or something. Like, I'm trying to imagine what he was like in his 40s and 50s. I mean, he had to be terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, he just had to be like long. I mean,
he was a merchant marine. He was a merchant marine. He spoke fluent Japanese. People don't know that. You know, I was living in Tokyo. I was living in Japan and flying over to the Philippines, and he and I would speak Japanese. You know, I mean, I only knew this much, but he knew way more than I did.
I never knew that. Wow.
Yeah. He fought on the ship. He fought in Singapore. He fought in San Francisco at the ports. You know, he's just a tough guy. Just a tough fight for money, fight for honor. Just a basic John Wayne cowboy, you know, cowboy of the Southeast.
He fought like in San Francisco. This is all new. Like during his tenure, like sailing around.
As a merchant marine, he would take, you know, they would have fights on the dock and in the boat and fight other shipmen and different things, and he earned some money, you know.
So, do you think there's anything to do with his father's? Oh my God, the name is escaping me now. His father's Pedro Cortez, father's training partner. Did he have any, or the tenure down there, as far as the silat and the moral influence? Do you think that had anything to do with it? No,
I don't know. I don't know. You don't see anybody. I mean, been down in Mindanao and see different silat and FMA there. I mean, they got Balintawak down there, Modern Arnis, Bikita. I mean, it's all, you know.
Yeah, way back then, though.
Way back, but you don't see ever Illustrisimo in an X stance or a twisted stance or low with his hands all out in different directions. And, it's just straight up fighting. And almost nobody else in FMA stands erect when they're fighting. You know, right. They're always in a stance of some kind, you know, not just like a walking step, right? Yeah. And then Tupper modified that to a boxing stance for Bakbakan, you know, like a fighter's walking stance, you know, makes sense, right? But he didn't like get into poses and have
No,
different
right.
stances, and he didn't call them out. And to answer Alvin's question, yeah, at different times, Tatang called his Arnis and Escrima, and Kalis was a later one that they decided on.
Mike Belzer.
Yeah, Mike Belzer.
Mike Belzer. Yeah.
They had Ulysses is one of the names for an Escrima stick. Doce Paros uses that name, Ulysses. So he called his Illustrisimo Arnis. Ulysses and Illustrisimo, Illustrisimo. That was one of the first names. You know, they were trying to, Tony and Tupper, Yoli were trying to brand it because it's just, I'm Antonio, this is my art. I don't know. I do Arnis, you know, that's the popular name at the time in Manila.
Right.
Arnis, you know, and Escrima was the popular name in Cebu. It was just FMA. Now FMA is easier. Everything's
right, just on an umbrella term. Right.
Yeah, you don't have to say which is what or what. But Kalis came named after because it's a bladed art. So they said Kalis or cutlass, right? Kalis Ilustrisimo, the sword art of Illustrisimo, not that it comes from Kali or Moroland or whatever people associate with that name. So.
Right. So, Guru Brandon, like, did your father, and like when you were growing up, for our stories of sharing with you, what did he indicate to you? What made him so special? Did he ever give you like any stories or what he thought made him special?
For the most part, it was just more of he didn't really go so much into detail with it, except the fact that he just had it in him. Besides the fact that, just like bouncing up from what GM said, also it's just it was just what he had, like, you know, either you got it or you don't kind of thing. But it was just something that my dad like noticed with him, how he like when he first met him, in terms of like the techniques he was going over, even just simple techniques and things like that. It was just something that he saw that this man really knew how to kill. It was really that he knew how to kill. He knew what he was doing. Like it's really more of a survival thing, because it's a fighting method. It's not meant for sport. It's really just meant for fighting. So a lot of the times my dad would always go over as to, like, you know, sometimes he would refer back to the stories of him cutting off like people's heads off and things like that, or even like, because back in the day I didn't like reading the books. My dad would force me to read it for the most part. But then after a while, after hearing all the stories and everything, even from the old videos from before, where because I have this one video that my dad took. It was one of the very first videos that they were interviewing Tatang, with him talking about as to what his system is, what experiences was, and in terms of that, it goes about as to like what the stance is and things like that. So it's actually it's actually one of those like really like piece of history right there that that says a lot as to how he approaches his techniques, even from before, because he could still move at that point. He could still do like elastico techniques, like really, like he still had some spring on his knees, you know, compared to like how it was like later on. But it was just you could just tell from the way he moved, you knew he.
Yeah, I mean, just like yeah, like wow, it's just amazing. Yeah. Oh, you know, I forgot to ask you, GM, when you brought up before about those old KI videos that were made, can you get those anymore?
I think I Sports in California sells them transfer them to DVD. Tupper's videos, yeah, I Sports.
But what about
letter I?
Yeah. What about the ones that you were talking about that starts with the M?
Oh, Mandarigma. No, I don't know where to get them at all. I mean, I have copies.
With the Mandarigma Productions, if it's, because I think I remember there was, because I have a couple videos.
They were shot in your house, Bruce.
Exactly.
Brandon, they were shot in your house. Yeah. I mean, you weren't born yet, but they were shot in your house.
It was the one where all the masters were there.
They're all there. Yeah.
Do you have it?
Oh yeah, I do. I do actually, because it's also where Alex Cole is also doing Gocho.
Yeah, Alex Coe's doing the Gocho.
They're in outfits, and my dad.
They're all in the Moro outfits. Yeah.
They had like the uniform, exactly, and then.
Oh my God! Oh, is that when Yuli's? If I paid you,
that's when Yuli's picture and Tatang and the thing with the pole and all that were taken there in Brandon's not yet house living room with the furniture moved.
Exactly. Because there was also the
Yeah.
one where, because in this video, there was like this weird the soundtrack, like the bells or something. Exactly. It was
And it's
that
so
one.
annoying, man.
Yeah.
You're like, you start like, turn off the volume.
Because I think there
Oh
was
my
even another
gosh.
video that came out of it. I think Dave Gould was dubbing it, like kind of translating it in English as a video was playing and then with him speaking.
Yeah, but
Because I also
sure,
have that.
you sure
No,
was-
that's Bob Torres speaking.
I was
That's
gonna-
Bob
Oh, okay.
Torres
I was
speaking.
gonna say Dave wasn't around. Yeah.
No. It was Bob Torres. Ray Golong videoed and edited, and Bob Torres did the
Okay.
voiceover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, I
Dave
have the whole
was so,
set, Lightning Scientific set, and the behind the scenes from the other ones.
it's incredible.
Dean, just message me your address, Dean. I'll make copies for you.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Okay.
Only if your guru tells me it's okay.
No, yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
There you go.
As long as it doesn't just start going off on
Just-
They're not really. I mean, they're not mine to put out publicly. I don't own them.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, definitely. I've been trying to find these things, and everybody's, they're or you can't get them. I mean, just,
Oh, Chad Bailey has some of the old Mandarigma VHSs. So if you can't wait, ask Chad to send you a copy. Yeah,
but I'd be extremely grateful, Jim.
Yeah. Wiley was on there quite a bit doing techniques.
Yeah, geez, I can't wait to see them. Wow. Okay, so this is going to get. I hope this doesn't come across not with you guys, but for those who are watching, I hope this doesn't come across negative or that I'm doubting the importance of this and that. That's not it. Again, I do these for an educational purpose to further my education and all that. So hopefully, folks. But before I do show, I go into the next question. Here's the pick.
Curious to see. Oh, that is my older brother. Actually,
That's your older brother?
Yeah, I was only I think a year old.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't word it. But yeah, that's definitely him because that was the time. If you notice how his stance is a lefty, he's a southpaw.
Yeah.
So because it was during that time that before my dad forced him to switch to like, southpaw stance to teach because exactly. Mm-hmm. So him being a lefty, that's usually his stance when it came to flow techniques. Because he's a left-handed person, and then it wasn't until later on that he got forced to switch just because.
I'm not so sure. You know what your brother looked like at that age.
No, he had
because Brandon, when were you born?
93.
Oh yeah, that's not you. That's probably 96. So
that's definitely because my brother was born in 89. But yeah, actually,
yeah, maybe that's 95.
It was before, but yeah, it's
cute.
There's a lot of history with that. Yeah,
super cute.
My brother had no choice.
You know what I'll do is
yeah,
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you, Guru.
Yeah. Okay, appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. No,
I'll show it to my older brother. Be like, oh, I found something from Mark Wiley.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
It's like a young Bruce, right?
I know.
I'll definitely send it.
Okay.
Yeah, but okay. All right. So here again, and I hope folks don't take this the wrong way. What I'm going to go into feeding, the importance of it. Here's, and I'm just going to give you like my opinion. I get why the feeding's important. So you know what to do as far as defensive movements, where, when, why, how. I get it. However, though, if it's excessive or if that is what the focus is, as opposed to really the other, which I'm going to segue into, Praxione and Borgata, if the focus is that, can that lead to complacency and can it overshadow what is really should stand out? Am I wrong? And if so, where am I going wrong? Jim.
Oh, sure. The first thing I'll say is anytime that the practice of the art, that the paired practice of the art, because let me just be more specific, is based on pre-arranged drills or feeding alone. You're going to develop that skill set and just stay there. You're never going to get past it, and you need to get past it. It's like to get you out of the block and counter. Angle 1, you block, you do your counter. Angle 2, you block and do your counter. and then you have it, and then you get to like what they call the box pattern or block and block with Serrata, or whatever these drills are, and then you get really good at that drill. You need to stop doing the drill and do something else, right? And you can't stay. Tony Diego gave me a progression for teaching the feeding drills for Illustrisimo, which is, you attack, he does whatever, say it's that's all going to be recta, angle one, recta, angle one, for example, right? And I'm feeding, and you do it in order, and you let the guy finish, right? And you let the guy finish, and next time you do it out of order, right? Then you do out of order, moving around. Sometimes you move back, and then you come in. So you're shifting gait and time a little bit, right? But you're still keeping the student's level at the out of order, but letting them finish. And then you don't let them finish the full before you do the next one. So now you're developing timing in this drill, right? Right. And then the next stage is when he's doing it, as he's countering, you're going to deflect and strike again. So now you're throwing his body off and his defense off, or he's not finishing, and he's not just finishing and you're striking, but you're actually interrupting his motion to feed the next one. And then you do that out of order and in different directions. And then you start with two-hand feeding out of order and interrupting. Like, there has to be a progression to it. You can't just stay at this level. You can box pattern all day and it doesn't mean anything, right? I mean, it doesn't really, how fast or hard you hit it means nothing, because nobody's going to fight you in a one for one.
Yeah. And here's my other issue. Like, and I'm not saying people, like, everybody just makes this a focus. And I hope I'm not coming across that way for the people who are watching. But I'm thinking, like, if you really want to find gaps like Praxion, and you want to just make adjustments, like with the concept of Umbagata, but if you're making weapon contact, how are you going to instill those concepts? Like, if that's, like, in other words, the more you practice something, and the more comfortability you get with it, the more you're going to gear towards that. Like, how would you find the other stuff that's of significance if you're making weapon contact? Am I wrong?
Okay, so in integrated Escrima, this is where I diverge a little bit. My integrated Escrima is just a teaching method, right? It's a framework for teaching and training. It's not like a different style, right? So you could still put it under KI, right, with some other styles, 20% in it, all right? But it's a teaching method, right? So the teaching progression, what's integrated is the footwork, the strikes, the timing. That's why it's called integrated, right? Yeah. Not integrating styles. Okay, so my teaching approach for that is how do we integrate practice of timing, right? So I teach that there's 3 timings on every technique, right? Before the guy strikes you, he's raising. During the strike, where you're countering, where however you're countering, and after he's struck.
Right, before, during, after. Yeah.
During, after. So when you're doing the feeding drills, right, you got to be able to mix up. So if you make weapon contact, you messed up. That's the during. I mean, you blocked at the during. So now you have to catch them in the before on the next one and take back your control by changing the time or your position. Stay on the outside gate, move him this way. You can control him from there. But you shouldn't have more than one weapon contact in the whole encounter, really. I mean, it should be fun.
Right.
It has to be this, an oh shit technique, right? And
right. You got caught.
You got to use that as a way to disrupt his flow, right? And then to control him from there. Because every time there's a weapon contact that's hard, he's striking hard and you're blocking hard, there's going to be a disruption for a split second. And in that disruption is where you move into those gaps that you're talking about. Right.
So I'm not completely off base. Okay. Right. Here's my thing. I look at counts. Like, I do things in counts. So if you're going, I'm not making weapon one count. If I move in my hand or whatever, okay, 2 count or 1.5, whatever. The moment I'm making weapon contact, your feed, my weapon contact, my counter, 3 count. Like, I'm looking like, I want 1 count, man.
Right.
I mean, ideally, an ideal world, but I get why you have to deflect. Your feet failed you. You didn't move. You didn't reposition.
Or he's too fast and you didn't react fast.
Right. So I understand that there has to be deflect. I get it. Like, and I do, and I see it, but I don't think that should be the most and all that.
Right.
So what say you, Guru Brandon? Am I off, or what do you think?
I mean, like,
I'll be right back.
Sure.
Like when it comes to like with like drills and things like that, for the most part, there's always going to be someone faster than you. That's one thing for sure. I mean, there's always going to be someone faster than me. I mean, anyone for that matter. So it's a lot more like the whole blocking and hitting thing. I mean, sure, it may seem like it's a lot of like counts, I guess you could say, kind of like you go like 1, 2, things like that. But of course,
you don't block.
I mean, for the most part,
So I mean, but here's the thing, though. Like, I watch you spar, man. I watch you, like, whether you know it or not. Like, I watch your stuff just so when we meet, you know, I'm gonna. But you don't block. So what I mean is, like, you know, I got a pretty good idea what you do, watching you and how you cut things in half and all this and your little, but so you have to kind of agree what I'm saying, but. You reference knockout. If I'm taking over the flow, whatever, I'm instilling, a stop or like that. You refer to as knockout, what GM Mark was talking about. Am I correct?
Knockout?
Were you like?
Knockout, like steal. Yes, the steal. Yes, I thought like knockout. Sorry. So yeah, knockout like the steal. Yeah. So you're basically like stealing that beat. That's right. That's really what it is. Mm-hmm. So I mean, when it comes to stealing that beat, it's basically more of like how, well, because in terms of, let's say, feeding, coming from a feeding flow standpoint, there's always more of like how it was taught to me and how I've approached it. It's more of, so there's more like there's a feeder and receiver, you know, someone that does the feeding and then the other guy just kind of reacts to it. Then afterwards, there's one where it's more like the feeder starts countering you. So instead of kind of just giving the receiver everything to just go off with those whole counts, the feeder starts cutting them off. And then the third one is where you kind of go more of like a freestyle where there's no feeder anymore. You guys just start reacting with each other where you're not just giving it all. It kind of becomes more of like a sparring. I mean, kind of like a sparring match again in a way. That's usually how my older brother and I would feed and how he would force me to feed because he doesn't want me getting too comfortable with just
complacent, right? You don't have to be
because you always got to progress. But when it comes to at least application of that feeding in a sparring setting, what we would do a lot is not so much of, let's say, we'd wear like, you know, in terms of headgear that we feed with the headgear or things like that. I mean, it's also good training because you get to feel what it's like to really hit the person. But for us, what we try to focus on is usually like that first 2 hits, whether or not the moment you block. That's like 1, 2, or maybe you hit the hand right away instead of blocking. You hit right away, 1, 2, instead of going like a 1, 2, 3. Because in our eyes, and also from the experience, it's not like the person's just gonna stay there and take the hits. For the most part, I mean, a 2-hit combo is already a lot. A 3-hit is kind of, you know, I mean, it feels good if you can really get a 3-hit on there. But for the most part, if it's someone that really tends to move around a lot, doing, let's say, a full-on abanico technique doesn't really work like that. It'll just be like just a quick 1, 2 for the most part. So, I mean, for me, when it comes to a block, I would normally do it if I know if it's someone that I've never sparred with, or let's say if I know he's somewhat faster than me. If I know for a fact during like those first few seconds of interaction that I know I'm faster than him, then I won't have to rely on the block. I can just rely on just the timing, or like that.
Right, you got
to go for it.
Gotcha.
But say, for example, if I was, let's say, with a certain Dean Franco, who's for sure significantly taller than me, then I might have to kind of block for a bit and then go for it, you know? Especially since someone's been reviewing my sparring videos, you know? I mean, just in case, you know?
Hit the legs.
Basically.
No, that's my biggest fear with him. He's gonna cut out the bottom of me, so I'm gonna be like.
But for the most part, it's really more of, I mean, the whole blocking thing, sure, it may be like it's a lot, but so you always kind of hit on the afterwards, because once you make that impact, there's that space where you can come in. That's usually like at that point, but then there's always a progression to it. If like how kind of like an Australia to an advanced Australia from how they would explain it before.
Yeah.
Right? Blocking first, and then afterwards you kind of cut off the ear as you move. There's a striking first, and then you kind of block into it. So, yeah. I mean, for me, for the most part, I mean, blocking really saves you. But, I mean, if you know you're faster than the other person, and then you know you already have the timing, you'll be able to pull off those things where it comes to striking right away before blocking.
Yeah, I thought both your guys' answer to that was dead on, and all that. Wow. Okay. Should the concepts of traction and una vogata, should they be the guiding principles of KI? Yes or no, and why or why not? GM.
Let Guru Brandon answer this one.
Yeah, I can answer it first for this one right here. I mean, should it be the whole guiding principle about the whole thing? I mean, it's like, with the whole like una pogada, it teaches you more of like keeping that distance, but at the same time, fraction is more like kind of intercepting that guy, intercepting your opponent when he's about to strike. I mean, I'd say it's good for the most part, but because to be honest, in terms of even just the terminology, fraction I've always heard, but una pogada I've actually never heard of until I've heard it from a couple students from my Roman side, actually. But my dad would always mention that you always want to just invade just enough, just about an inch, so that you're
so this would be main
right away.
Yeah,
but for the most part, you can pull off the whole like 1 inch una pulgada right away if you already had the experience. But if you're trying to focus on on that 1 inch, you're always going to get hit a lot because you're not at that capability yet. So for the most part, sure, it is a guiding factor, but then at the same time, you want to make sure that you don't just focus everything on it. Just in my opinion, because you want to make sure that at least you kind of get used to the fact that not just evading it just about an inch and then being able to counter back, but for the most part, you need to make sure that you're able to get out of there first before you start coming.
Yeah. Not getting hit being the priority. Yeah. And then maybe slowly, gradually reduce the distance.
Yeah, and like
you
more comfortable from like far away, then you kind of keep creeping it up until it becomes like an inch. Like that kind of. If I'm being specific with just the terminology of.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Obviously, I know the reference is 1 inch, but certainly if I do a lasso here and it misses me 3 inches, I think that still falls under the umbrella of minimizing your adjustment to have a counter.
Yeah, actually, like that's true when it comes to minimizing that counter, evading and things like that. But for me personally, it's like I don't. Just my opinion. Like I don't think that should be the main focus when it comes to it. But other people might just start like shutting me down and things like that. But that's just
I'm not saying it should be either. I just know those concepts are. I feel
and that's the one that always. That's usually the concept I would hear around actually. To go around in the community as to the terminology, but for me, besides for me, I feel like the whole guiding factor for the system should be sparring, in my opinion. But that's because of how I brought it to me.
But here's the thing, though: to get better, in my opinion, the sparring should be the tool used to get a better grip on those things.
That's also true, but you also want to make sure. I feel that the student should get used to the fact of getting hit so that he doesn't get scared. But then afterwards, then you can start adding it in.
Yeah, and he gets more comfortable. He sees where he failed. Oh, you know what?
So make sure they're already out of that comfort zone already.
Yeah. No, right. Because if he's not comfortable, he's not gonna attempt anything.
Exactly.
What say you on this, GM?
I say, let's shut down Guru Brandon. No.
We're officially shutting down the
Let's put baby in the corner. No, I'm just kidding. Everything you said is correct. But so getting back to a previous answer I had about what are the main things that I learned from Illustrisimo is the concepts of controlling range, time, and position. And range is your 1 inch, time is your praction, right? That's range, time, position is footwork. So there they are. For me, those are the top three. Well, and how to strike, right? Range, time, position, and striking method. And your range, you have to practice, and you go from long, medium, close, and no matter which 3 range you're in, that close distance is what you want to get to, right? The timing for praction, you don't have to be a fraction if you walk in and don't be scared. You could hit him when you're a foot off and he's striking. If if you believe and you practice the technique and you rely on the technique, and
Right,
you get that belief in those balls from sparring, right? So and then so range, timing, position for me, and that's those are concepts, and you have to practice sparring, you have to practice counters, you have to practice footwork with the techniques and the proper range, that space, because if you're only sparring without that framework, it's going to take you a long time to get it.
Yeah, you're just going to be moving around.
You're just going to be doing stuff, right?
No, I get it. Yeah.
So if you have that framework and you spar and you can limit somebody to something like, okay, you guys you do whatever you want, and you try and control from medium to close range, and don't let your opponent go out to long range. How practice, come in close, shut them down. One guy can do whatever, and the other guy's got to practice that one of the concepts in that, right, to learn how to do it.
Yeah. I totally agree with you guys. You have to use sparring as the tool to do that, and gradually in increments.
And the feeding is a tool,
And
but you don't hold the tool and say that's the art, right? I mean, you can't just feed and say that's the art, or do the techniques and say I got Illustrisimo. That's just a tool.
No, understood. Right.
Yeah.
But I just think I like the timing, right? The timing, the gap, fractional, right? The distance, right?
Yeah. Darren Tabone, brother, how you doing? Yes.
I know. Steve Brody. Gee, I thought I invented timing.
Steve did. We all got it from his unique publication videos. Thank you, Steve. I gotta let my dog back in.
Hold on. Yeah. No problem. That guy's, man. That guy cracks me up. Okay. Okay, Guro Brandon, we're coming down a wire. So, in your opinion, and I'm not saying it's happening. Some people do. For whatever it's worth, opinions are opinions. You know that. Is KI getting lost in translation by some?
I mean, lost in translation meaning like it's not as pure as it can be, or
is it being made? Is it being made to be popular, and thus, because of that, is that possibly getting lost in translation from what he really stood for? So,
actually, well, yes, from what I've been seeing.
Yeah, again, I'm trying to stay neutral here, but
I mean, I'll just go out and say it and just say yes. I mean, even when my dad was still alive, even with my older brother and everything, it's just, I mean, from how it was before. I mean, one thing for sure, from how it was before, and then once you get passed out, it's not pure anymore, you could say, because every single instructor already had their own influence on there. But then as it keeps trickling down, things like that, I mean, it's a lot more. Sure, you can always pay respects and everything, but you can never say it's the pure. It's like it's as pure as it can get. Like for mine, for example, like I teach Illustrisimo, but I don't say it's pure Illustrisimo. Sure, I would show how it was taught before, from how Tatang showed it to my dad, but then I would always refer back to this is how I tend to pull it off now. But it's not exactly the how it was in the olden days, but it's a bit how different from how I do it now. But it's just because of like experiences and also like different styles that I got into, mainly styles, meaning boxing and like dancing, because of the whole footwork thing that kind of came about. But
yeah,
there are others out there that I would always try to like say they're the pure art, or maybe even call me out and say, what he teaches is not pure religion or things like that. But I mean, what's really pure anymore? Like everything's already lost now. Sure, I mean, you pay respects and things like that, but it's a lot more of everyone has their own interpretation on it now. But
yeah, I look at you just evolved. I don't think that's fair. That I think you evolved due to your athleticism. I think you incorporate that. So as a result of that, I think there is a self-creation due to your attributes. I mean,
it's
why
usually,
wouldn't you?
Because usually, like for some techniques, actually, it's like sometimes some techniques works for me just because of what I'm used to. Meaning, like, for example, let's say some techniques, instead of me kind of doing like a certain recta movement, I'd rather do a sunkit because I'd rather just clear it off and then just go for a strike.
Right.
Others have commented and say, oh, it's because you're fast, that's why you can do it. But I mean, that's not the case. I mean, speed has nothing to do with it. I mean, sure, fine, there's a factor when it comes to like being fast, but for the most part, it's just because I felt that I was safer on this side. So I'd rather just do that instead of trying to go for
it. What you found too.
That's oh, it's not Illustrisimo because you're just But I mean, for the most part, it's really more of how
Sunkit is in there.
Exactly. But I mean,
with their V chop return, I mean,
that's true. I mean, for me, I still got you with it. So, I mean, but I mean, that's just all my opinion, though.
No. So GM, the question was, I don't know if you caught it. Is KI getting lost in translation from what you saw way back and all that? Your thoughts?
Yeah, and first I just want to give a story on what Brandon was saying about speed. Okay, so I always know Tupper was super fast, and when I was watching him and Tony training one time, Tony was getting in a little bit more often, and he looked so much faster to me. And I said afterwards, I was like, well, Tony's the top student, whatever, So I said, hey, Toop, man, Tony's really fast, huh? He said, no, he's not faster than me. He said, but his timing is better. And I was like, that's it, His timing was better, so he could go quicker in than, Tupper had to move faster to get where Tony's timing was just boom, 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 And I was like, boy, it looked faster, but it just traveled less distance, because the timing factor of where he was to where he was going or whatever. And there's just an interesting thing about timing and speed, with the correct position, timing, and and range control. You don't have to be faster,
Yeah. If you got the
time, right? That's the fractioning and everything else, no matter what technique you use. But okay, so to the question, I agree with Guru Brandon, and from my perspective, the new generation of KI is really kind of far from Tatang, and nobody was pure except Tatang. Even the first students are trying to mimic him, right? The style. So nobody's pure but the founder. I mean, and Tony had Balintawak and Modern Ernest before he met Tatang. So all the original Illustrisimo drills were Balintawak and Modern Ernest drills done Illustrisimo style, which people don't know,
Interesting.
So, and Yuli had Tat Kunto and Balintawak, and I think some Saavedra before, so his method was different. Tupper had Arnis. I mean, I remember one day Tupper showing me La Punti Arnis de Avanico's counters, and then Balintawak counters, and Modern Arnis counters, and this one counters, and Mang Ben Lightning Scientific. He knew all the styles, so he had a lot in his tool chest already, so everybody we're seeing from that first line, Ray and Romy, they all had a different background. So Tatang's information went into their experience, and then what came out of that was their expression, right? And then from Tupper to Brandon has his own expression, his own path, right? His own, even though his dad's his teacher, it's different. It's going to be different. I had Serrata, Vinyas, Modern Arnis, Professor V, Taekwondo and Kempo, before I met Tatang, right? So that was all it took me a while to just try and just be
right to clear that. And Edgar obviously had
plenty of, he was really a disciple of Leo Gahe
and the compo
yeah. So he had like 5 or 7 main styles and
already that he was
right. So everybody has their own expression of Tatang's thing. So, and what drives me bonkers today is when 3rd or 4th generation students like badmouth, you don't know shit and you're full of it and you don't know anything. It's like, you're like 5 levels below me, man.
No, I don't understand that. Like, you were actually in the room when he was watching TV, like hitting you, and they're talking that makes just like no sense to me. Like how you would say something like that.
Yeah,
it's like, just shut up.
And this is why I use my own name. And I don't put KI on it, but is because there was so much negative feedback from mainly Tony students overseas who were coming to train with him and, you know, being jealous, or, you know, I had a branch in the
Still
UK.
going on today.
Yeah, it's still going on. And it's like, I just don't want to be, and then falling outs with, you know, between the main guys and everybody, you know, and who's the head and who's after Tatang Pat. And I just don't want to get caught up in it. You know, I just want
to blame you. I mean, that's
be friends with all of them and just do my thing. You know, Tupper trained me a lot. Tony trained me a lot. Ray Galang taught me a lot. Romy showed me a lot. You know, they all have differences. You know, Romy was very analytical and understands the language. Pedro Reyes, his cousin, was a systems analyst by education. So he gave me his whole manual that he had written on KI. I have it here. You know, I have Romy's old notes. I have Ray's old notes. You know, I got the collection of material, man. But the point is that some people, the second, third, fourth generation is just mimicking generations of people, right? And everybody's standing up like Yuli Romo now, thinking that's the way. And Tatang never stood exactly like a stick man, you know. Tupper didn't. He was in like a fighting stance, you know. Tony just stood whatever, you know, whatever he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But now everybody thinks they got to lean back and be super tall and just be all tight. And Tatang sometimes just had his hands by his side. He'd just walk up to you. Wow.
Yeah, always seemed very relaxed.
Very relaxed. Yeah. He wasn't trying to pose, you know. Like, he's copying his hand poses with the stick. And it's like, that's like one position out of 300, you know.
Yeah,
but they,
no.
Traditional because I do it like this. And it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like you just don't
like they shouldn't be saying anything in regards to like you.
Yeah,
I just don't. That's just.
But I think what's happened with the YouTube culture is that people can grab techniques from YouTube, so they from any art. But this talking Illustrisimo, okay, I have Australia and Pluma, Tumbada, Boki Lobo, whatever, but they don't know the art, right? And just collecting those names and say like, oh, I have traction, right? How do you train it? How do you do it? Can you show me if I'm swinging fast and hard? No, so you don't know it. You know about it, right? Like you're familiar with the idea, you know.
Yeah. I mean, like
copycatting a template, but don't have the essence.
Yeah. Wow. I'm not. Yeah. I think well said by both of you. Obviously. Just here, I want to just touch on this. Guru Brandon, I know you didn't have exposure to all the pillars, but the ones that you did, I think it was. GM Tony, you had a little time with. You know, what did you get from him? You know, as far as seeing another pillar's information, and if there were more pillars that, you know, or I know your father shared a lot with you regarding Edgar.
Like on my, I'll also explain also what my brother experienced as well, because he was the one who experienced a lot of the pillars actually. But on my end, when I was able to meet up with Master Tony for a bit, when I came down over here just to visit, because my dad, having that karate background, he had a wider stance. So that was the first thing that Master Tony actually fixed for me, because for him, Master Tony had a smaller stance. And the first thing he said was, "You're definitely your father's son, because your stance is wide." You know? But, I mean, my dad was able to make it work. So a lot of the adjustments came from that. And then as I was learning a lot of the experiences from Master Tony, there was a lot of motion when it came to the tightness of it. Kind of not so much of really opening up too much, but it was very tight. Because my dad emphasized a lot on the offhand. Because every time he would even just practice with a strike, he never just parried it just like that. There was always a big push to it. And then when Master Tony
emphasized, yeah.
So it was a lot more of. Well, one thing for sure was the stance was different, and then also in terms of the motions of the techniques of how quick Master Tony's arm movements were. So that was the one thing I've actually experienced from him. From my older brother, from what he talked about with each one, because sometimes we actually do it a lot in sparring. So there's more of how he explained it to me that when it came to my dad, it was a lot more of the footwork that came about. With Master Tony, it was a lot more like the hand speed. And then when it came to Master Yuli, it came more with like the hip work. He had a very smooth hip work, you know.
He's got very unique movements. I mean,
actually, So a lot of the times was when I was growing up, even though I didn't get to experience all the other pillars, but how my dad actually showed me in terms of like the training of how their mindset was when it came to sparring, like how Edgar always comes in with Punu Edgar in terms of the motion of the hands and how he moves those hands like in and out and things like that was one of the main things my dad focused on teaching me when I was introduced to sparring.
The combo. Yeah.
He would mention as to like who he learned it from. So like
yeah.
Edgar always did all this a lot. So that was the one thing he focused on. And then now in terms of quick moves, and then Master Wiley always did like the hip work and things like that. And so that kind of came about it as to how I would fake.
I think it's so fascinating. They all had their
everyone had their own like signature, I guess.
I know. I think it's fascinating. Like they all had their own little I mean, GM Mark. I mean, you got to experience all of them. Like so, one by one. What did you get from them?
Yeah, Tony was a stickler on timing and tightness, definitely, and on combinations, but tight combinations. You know, like Guru Brandon was saying. You know, hands in tight, move it in tight, pot, and keep it tight. Tupper was more relaxed because he had a lot of sparring experience. You know, he wasn't like just like get in and finish. He was like, okay, I got this. You know, he had a lot of experience sparring. You know, he entered one of the first Arnis tournaments in the Philippines. It was in boxing ring in a gymnasium, and he hadn't done Arnis yet. And Alex Coatshold said to him, "What are you going to do?" He says, "Well, I'm going to use Jesus and pray." And he went in with double sticks as a cross, and he just went in and jammed everybody and just started boxing him with the sticks like boxing. And he won. He won first place.
Holy, here I come.
I use Jesus. I make a cross.
Oh, you can't make this stuff
game
up.
to do it, right? It's just like Tatang, you know, just fight, just go do it, you know.
Jeez, wow.
But you know, I don't know the level of the people he was fighting, or if it was beginner, advanced, or what. But he just did it, you know, which is amazing. Tupper was big on sparring. He also was big on recta. You know, in the recta, I got that from him. And in the using in integrated Escrima, I have 5 sets of 5 combos. I call them the main our main combination sets of striking. And I got the idea from Tupper, who was showing me how to swing the stick like boxing combinations. 1-5, 1-5, 2-3, 4. You know, 2-3, 5-1, like boxers do, right? But he would do it with a stick. 1-2, 1-2, 3, 1-2, 3, 4. Like boxing.
Familiar.
So I definitely got that from him. From Tony, I got the clean motion of all the techniques, right? Romy was a technician who had a lot of knowledge about the concepts, right? So Romy's language and detail of the names and what they mean and the principles, he was very good with that. And his cousin Pete Reyes as well, who was
kind of academia,
yeah. Ray Golling was really good at taking, from what I got with Ray, was taking the basic material and creating drills from it to train, you know, with the bakbakan drills, and then he'd go teach Tupper, and Tupper would work them out and modify them, and all of a sudden it's in the group, you know.
Okay.
You know, Tupper learned a lot from Doc Lang's son, Shotokan and Modern Arnis. That was his first really foray. That's where he gets his wide stance. Yeah, his wide stance there. And you know, Yuli is just he's just really good, but he's got his own. Like, you can't really mimic. Like, I can't.
I know. How do you mimic him, man? Like, that's like,
you know. But he would do things like slide his body this way and have the knife just miss and all this. And like, I don't have that many balls, but I still have 2. You know?
His movements, I know.
Yeah.
It's so unique. It's like,
yeah, but he has got so much else. He's not. I don't really see him as like, you know. The last time I saw him was 2013, and he did a 2-hour demo for me and Alex Coe, and some of my students came with me to the Philippines, and he was showing it, and you could almost see like no KI in what he was doing. You know, it's
so he really from the Baja Cebu, really.
Yeah, it's really his thing. It's really his thing now. You know,
yeah.
And, but he was instrumental early on in really promoting KI. But he's gone out and trained so much and developed so much that he's really. It's like a whole separate. For me, looking at it, it's like a separate thing these days. You know.
Yeah. What about any times at PG Edgar?
Edgar, I didn't meet in the Philippines. I met him over here. you know, and we just had chances to sit and talk, you know. I take a seminar, you know, after we'd sit and talk, or me, him, and Ray Golland go out to eat and whatever. But I didn't actually do much training with him, or any training with him.
Yeah.
You know, it was just he was really pushing Lameko. I was learning KI I didn't want to.
Oh, you right. You didn't want to get.
I was trying to stay like,
yeah.
I still got to learn this. Like we're talking 94, 5, 6, 7 in there. You know.
Yeah. No, I just understand. You don't want to be distracted. I mean, Jeez. What do you recommend in we're almost coming 2 hours. This has been absolutely fascinating. Guru Brandon, should they seek out different instructors to be more well-rounded, more educated within KI, see different lens? Do you advocate that?
I mean, I would say yes. Whenever you get a chance to, because every single instructor out there always has something to offer. That's one thing for sure. So you don't have to stay closed-minded with just one. From how I see it, again,
I totally agree. I think that's
because my father was the one who really pushed for that, where because he'd always say, like, if you're just used to just one person, it's kind of the same in flow. Like whenever you flow, if you're just used to one partner, if someone else pairs up with you, it's like, oh, that style is gone. It doesn't even look the same as how you look for the first partner. The same in terms of training, because that's the only time you'll get better is experiencing training different, getting out of that comfort zone, right? So I would definitely push for that. If you really want your training to grow, experience different martial arts, whether it's different Illustrissimos or even just other arts in general. Like for me, for example, even though I'm just doing Illustrisimo, but I'm still doing boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, because it still plays a role with it, even though it's not the same stuff. I mean, it's just the whole martial art in general really helps with your growth. Mm-hmm.
How about you, GM Mark? Within the lens of KI, think folks should seek out as many different instructors as they can?
I agree with Guru Brandon, and then I have a caveat. My caveat is and I'll give an example from Serrata. I'm sure. So after Angel passed away, maybe 10 years later, I'd run into a bunch of guys in Europe or in the US or somewhere who wanted to come train with me, but they didn't want to join the group or learn the curriculum, right? They just want to train, just show them stuff. And I'd say, well, that doesn't fit my agenda. You know, like I'm trying to promote Angel's teaching, right? His art. Yeah. I'm not interested in having guys just come and see, like, how do I do his art? And they're like, oh, well, let me show you, like, angle one, here's the angle one inside, you know, and they're like, well, here's how this guy does it. Here's how this guy does it. Here's how Jimmy DeCosta does it. Here's how Mikey Nay does it. Mikey Nye does it, you know. And I'm like, but where does that get you, right? Like, it's still the same block. You just have 7 ways of expressing it. So why don't you just learn the block on the template and then express it through your own body, right? Instead of memorizing everybody's way of doing it, right? Gotcha. Right. So I think you need to have a teacher that you stick with for a while, you know, like your dad, right? Or whomever, to really get the art. And then you go train with different teachers for experience, but not just freelance across the board, because you're not really going to learn. You know, you just want to collect variations of the same, you know, 7, 10, 12 variations of each movement, but that's not actually teaching you the art.
Yeah, right. It almost could be detrimental.
It's
your point.
Yeah,
definitely. I could definitely see that. I could appreciate that.
Yeah.
For closing thoughts, like, what would you guys? I mean, this is within specific context of KI. What would you guys like to see change within the KI community? I mean, what would you like to see? You know, for closing thoughts, Guru Brandon, what would you like to see?
One thing for sure is supporting each other. That's one. That's really a big thing. You know, I've come across people that say, like, oh, you know, you got to support each other no matter what. But then when it
facade.
But you know, but really, it's a lot more of making sure that you don't bring people down. That's what sure. I mean, we're just one big community.
I probably shouldn't have said that, because I you know, the reason why, which to reiterate my opening statement here, and I really do hope there is a more collective community post these interviews in KI. I really do. I really do. I'm hopeful for that. But there's also a realistic aspect to me that, because there's currently a facade. So I'm talking, when I say facade, I'm talking about status quo right today, right now, at whatever time it is. You know what I mean? But my goal for doing this is that changes, where it's no longer facade. People actually mean it, and they want to get together and actually like, hey, let me see how you do this, or whatever is used as an example, or what have you. And hopefully, that's what I'm hoping for. But current status quo, there's some facade going out there. We just got to be honest, I mean, it's
Yeah.
GM Mark, what? I know you think there's facade out there.
I think everybody's full of shit, including myself. I put myself there too, but jokingly. But the point is, why is there so much incivility? Lack of civility when we're all just the same family, different cousins, grandkids, whatever.
It's crazy.
Like, you can be angry at Uncle Herman, for saying or whatever, but you don't shut down a whole group or family, or say, you're not really born of his mother or something. I mean, it's just stupid. So I think what we got to do, I mean, there's one thing that would kill the art is to have that would absolutely kill it, would be to form some kind of an association or council, because everybody's going to fight about who's in that council and who's on top and who's on, so absolutely.
Yeah, that never works out well.
Yeah. But to have like a KI event where you'd have all different teachers there teaching, and nobody bad mouthing from the sidelines. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
and it'd be the students too. Like, you were talking about the fourth generation. Oh, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, it's stupid, So I think, and this art isn't as important as human beings, right? I mean, there's always someone bigger. The art is bigger than all of us, right? Like, okay, I train with these guys. I put them in books, whatever. But the art is way up here, and I'm one speck inside this art that's worldwide. From before I was in it, and after I'm gone, it's still going to be here. You just try and help support and promote the art without pulling anyone else down, right?
No, I know. It's just crazy. Like, like, I don't know. Like, I just hope the facade.
It's just, people are just full of it,
Well, but I'm hoping by the end of this, because here's the thing. Like, this was always instilled to me by my father. He goes, don't complain if you're not being part of the solution. And so I'm reluctant to say, like, well, this thing, I'm going to be part of the solution. I'm going to do whatever I can. But at the end of this solution, if things are still the way they are, then it's on them, and that's just the way it is, So,
yeah.
Who we got here?
And don't start just spreading, problems. Just come up with this. Talk about the solutions, right?
That's what I mean. It's like,
you can say like, oh, this, whatever, and we're more pure than this, but nobody's pure. Everybody's come from somebody who's had other training.
But you hit the nail on the head when you went through all the 5 pillars and you described what they did beforehand. I mean, it got lost. The purity got lost right at first level.
It's gone.
I mean,
gone.
First level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for somebody to say, well, he's not teaching pure KI. Well, what is pure KI?
Same when Angel Kabbalist passed away, all the masters under him, everybody's fighting for who's the top, and everybody has their expression, right? But they all had the same teacher, and everybody looks a little different, right? There's very few people. My close brother Darren T-Bone, who's on here, GM Darren.
I know we're trying to get him on here too.
Yeah, he was on here earlier. But yeah, you should get him on the show. He's
no, he's supposed to come on.
Yeah, we were like the youngest master graduates under Angel, back in the day. He's older than me, but we're still both the youngest of that era. And I'll tell you, he's really advanced the art, right? Everybody else is still figuring, and he's advancing it, right? And it's like, that's what we need to do. Like, we just all need to come
take
together.
the high road. And then everybody's seeing like this person taking the high road that's not participating in that.
Right.
And I think
ego. It's all ego driven. Yeah.
You know what it is? I think I agree with you. I think it's ego, but I also think it's passive aggressive behavior and
Yes.
that fear of like, I'm losing my status because this new guy is coming around. So they don't look at the bigger picture about perpetuating the art. It revolves back to the id. Me, I'm going to lose out on this or that. I'm not going to be viewed. And so
Right.
it's ego driven. I totally agree. But it's also that id and that
Right.
passive aggressive, which is in FMA. And I tell you, in FMA community, the passive aggressive behavior is like none other. I see it every time in FMA discussion. Who will like whose pose, who won't, because they're not there. I see it every day. It's just like these are adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I've been shut out a lot, in the last 30 years. I mean, hate mail, death threats.
oh, I know. And look what you've done for the community. That's crazy.
Challenging me, students coming. I was teaching in Singapore a couple of times. Students from Yuli's students come, and they'll just sit there on the side, and I'll say, "Come on up and practice." Well, we do it this way. Well, why don't you show me? Show me and I'll show you what I'm doing, and maybe you learn something. At least you can learn how to counter me, maybe but get off your ass and do something,
Instead whispering.
Don't just sit there on the side bicker. Otherwise, get out of the space,
Oh man, good heavens.
How long you've been training? Oh, 3 years. I've been with GM 3 years. Okay, so you're in Singapore. He's in the Philippines. 3 years. Oh, that's good. Mm-hmm.
I know, and compared to you, like you've been around that's like insanity. I would be ashamed. I would just keep my mouth shut and just like, wow. But this has been absolutely wonderful. This one better than I thought. I gotta be honest with you, because I was a little nervous, setting this off and how I was gonna go about it. Am I doing this correctly?
You did awesome.
Question.
You did really good.
It
got the old and the new.
Yeah. It just took me a whole day to do the outline, but
the whole day. Just ask the first question. We'll keep it going.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go leave the other room, and you guys just keep going. I'll come here and I'll hit the stuff.
I want to finish. I want to just tell Brandon a funny story again about his dad. So me and Tupper were sparring one time at his house in San Miguel Village. When he lived there, and I think it was Ronnie's office, and we took it over. Tupper took it over, made it a sparring place, a gym. But we were sparring, and I wrestled in high school, and I studied jiu-jitsu way back before the Gracies and everything else, like old jiu-jitsu. And so I took him down, and I had him in a headlock, and he just grabbed my nuts, and I jumped off. Alex Cohen was wet himself laughing. I'm like, what the fuck, man? You grabbed my dick.
Nutcracker.
You grabbed my dick. And he said, no, I didn't grab. I said, you grabbed my dick. He said, I didn't grab. I grabbed your balls. I said, oh. He said, if I grab your dick, I'm gay. But I grab your balls. It's self-defense.
So he wanted to make that distinction.
Yeah, he had to make the distinction. I never forgot that. That was funny.
Oh, my God. Wow, this has been... Oh, before we go, Guru Brandon, is that a new shirt?
Oh no, this is just an old shirt actually, like a really old shirt.
I thought it was like a new symbol and you're holding out on.
No. I think Master Yuli made this before for my dad. Yeah,
29.90. Yeah.
Martin, Dean, great episode. Relax now, Dean. You can sleep well tonight. Yeah, exactly.
Well, no one could go to bed without going on Amazon Prime and watching Made in Chinatown.
I did share it. So guys,
produced by this guy. We need more views on Amazon and good reviews.
Yes.
It's free. It's on Prime. Made in Chinatown. Check it out.
Yeah, here, folks.
Shameless promotion. Oh, Guru Dean, he won. How did you win a DVD? You entered a contest and you won a DVD made in Chinatown. Oh, Chinese guy tries to join the Italian mafia to get an Italian girl. And he starts a mob war between the Chinese and Italians, thinking he's going undercover to infiltrate. He's just trying to get laid. Starts a whole mob war, and he's trying to go undercover and infiltrate the mob to take him down to save his family. It's funny. It's funny because
some of my relatives from the Bronx were they were, I guess you could say, somewhat in
the biz,
and I'm going to tell you right now that didn't fly. That they didn't fly back then.
No.
But the Chinese went over Canal Street, so now the
Right.
Chinese
Right into Little Italy. One street in New York divides Little Italy.
Now they got tapping. But what a shame! Like I remember going down there as a kid. Canal Street was the dividing thing. Now they're over.
It's all spread. Yeah.
And I went down. I'm like, what the hell?
All the Italians moved to Hoboken and Atlantic City.
I know. I'm like, how'd you let this just go? Ooh, yeah. I'm like, you bunch of freaking. But hey, yo, folks, get this or go on Amazon.
Amazon Prime, it's free now. You check it out if you got Prime and give it a 5-star review just for effort.
There you go. Right here. No excuses.
Otherwise, I can't make another movie about FMA. Come on.
Oh, here. So you might have to come through, GM Mark. Dean, I'll look for the tapes. Do you have a VH? I don't. So can you still make it?
eBay. No. I have them on DVD because Alex Coe used to bootleg everything and sell them at his Squadron shop in Green Hills. So he gave me the DVDs, you know.
I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Brandon, you have them, right? You don't need them, right?
I'll give you a link, Dean.
You got it? Oh, that's even better. Yeah, I don't have to worry about it.
Oh, you have it?
Because I have the one where they kind of posted it, and then also like a raw footage of it when they were just leave the camera there and they're all chilling and just doing disarms and things like that.
That's so cool. Yeah, I got all that raw too. Yeah. Do that.
I would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh no, definitely, yeah.
All right.
Alex, Erica, yeah.
But
I want to do an FMA. I want to do an FMA movie with all FMA in it, right? A kid's getting picked on in gang. He finds old Filipino guys sweeping the store or whatever. Teaches them FMA and whatever. Awesome. We got to get more likes on this one first, so we can get Amazon to expand the distribution and make some money back. And
again, folks. Right here.
Yeah. Who's that? Kino Perina. Yeah, I got whacked with the black belt Bakbak ceremony, and I forget if I did it at Ray Golling's place in Lodi, New Jersey, or if we did it at the Makati YMCA. But my entire section was black and blue from getting busted with the knot on the black belt, man. There was like
as you're going down the gauntlet.
It was like revenge, man.
But
my entree into Bakbakan and coming off the plane after 26 hours of flying and sparring 10 guys. I don't know who these guys are. I mean, I just first time, just a helmet and a stick, boom, one after another, one round. This guy and this guy, and I'm like, are they masters? Are they black belts? Are they here to kill the white boy? Like, I don't know.
After 26 hours, man, I would have started crying.
But afterwards, there was like 10 pizzas from Domino's delivered because the one guy worked at Domino's and got them. And we all ate Domino's and drank.
It's all about the food and mix afterwards, usually.
Yeah.
You call Domino's pizza?
Yeah. Oh, that's when Vico met me. Okay, very good. Yeah. Oh, we sparred. No kidding. All right. Nice. You probably kicked my ass, man.
I'm gonna hold you that, Guro Brandon. You're gonna send me that link, man. Man.
Hey, I just want coupons for
Squeaky
food.
Will gets the grease, man.
Saviramal, yeah. I just want some food, Brandon. Are you in the Philippines now, or are you still in California?
I've been here in the Philippines for the past around almost 6 years now, actually. But I might be moving back to
Philadelphia.
I'm going back to the US.
No such luck.
Okay, cool.
Jeez.
Well, say hi to your Uncle Ronnie for me. Say hi to Mom.
I will.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. What a nice way to start this series with you guys. And I thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Very good.
Yeah,
we appreciate it too. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
you've given me a voice to a new generation who just came up hearing negative crap, but also reading my books for good stuff. So so I appreciate how you're trying to bring everyone together and do that for Serrata too. Have different Serrata guys on and bring that group together.
Oh, let me know. I tell you what, give me the names and I'll do it.
Well, start with Darren. I'll be
Okay.
part of it. Reach
You
out.
want to jump on with Darren?
Yeah, I'll come on anytime you want, man. I got nothing else to do. What do you? I got a life.
Hey, can you do me a favor? Reach out to Darren and say you guys want to come on together. I'll make it happen.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'll make it happen next month.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of guys. A whole bunch of stories, bunch of guys. Darren and I can talk about how we brought Bahalana and Serrata back together.
Oh my God, I'll definitely make that happen.
The three of us worked hard to do that, and we did it.
He's supposed to come on. We've just been, he's got a couple things going on with production and all that. But if you reach out to him, I'll bring you both on. Oh my God, that'd be so much fun.
Yeah, or give him an hour. Give him one first. Whatever. It's all good. He's worth it, man. He's a good guy.
I want to make it happen. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
But,
thanks for this. Who's on next week for KI?
The two pillars, the remaining pillars, GM Ray and GM Wiley.
Ooh,
nice.
Wiley. All right.
So Wiley, you can Australia brother cow.
Yep. I tell you all the stories, the Highlanders and the Lowlanders, and they will come in different. It's like, okay.
I love him, but he'll get really close and and he's so animated. He
is. Loves it. They still look so young, It's like crazy, athletic, and
I know. It's But, all right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch. All right.
I'll send that link, Dean. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks,
Take care, Mark. I'll see you.
All right.
I got you. Yeah. Wow. What an episode. Yeah, that went better than I thought. It took me, no exaggeration, 11 o'clock in the morning to 5. Just the outline. You just want, I didn't want to cross paths. I was just trying to, without stepping on people's toes and not creating more controversy. So, but at the same time, being truthful and bringing up things that, that I think need to be discussed and shared and what have you. But next week, as you just heard it, same time, 8 o'clock. GM Wiley and GM Ray, the two remaining pillars. So that should be interesting too, and getting there. So my questions will be different for them, and all that, but still, which will even make it more interesting, I think. But so closing thoughts. Yeah, is that magic? Okay, that will make you. That's fun. Yeah, we'll have to ask him, Julius. But all right, guys, thank you all that jumped in, watched, commented, submitted questions. I appreciate it. And until next time, I will see you guys. Who was next? Actually, Chris Mendinga. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Me and Martin are going to be doing that next week, Tuesday. Under 2 on Jared and the Tricom and all that. So I think that's going to be some good stuff and all that. So yeah. But so until then, folks, I'll see you then.